Your business has all these required functions, like the different systems of the body. Right? You've got your brain, you've got your heart, you've got your lungs, you've got these different systems and they have to interact. Your business has all these functions. The limiting factor, somebody will often come in going, oh, I've got a sales problem, but rarely is that the root cause. It normally shows up somewhere else. So I'm saying this, so as you're thinking right now, people often come in with one presenting, I think it's in this area, when actually, Sal, it's in another area. I believe thinking is a skill and it's a muscle. So I believe concentration's a muscle and a skill, so you can learn to concentrate better. I think that's what these things are destroying. Like, my children's ability to concentrate horrifies me. And I'll find that when I'm in, if I do a boardroom session for 2 days, occasionally when somebody's new to a group, they'll say, how the hell do you manage to concentrate for that long? Because they find it hard that I've got to be on point for every single person in the hot seat for every single session. And to which I go, I've practiced it a lot.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like I've practiced the skill of being able to think. Now, it's still, just to be clear, if it's a muscle, if you think about it, you can perform at a certain level. I'm not saying it's not hard work. It's like, yeah, it's still hard, but it's easier and it's a learned skill. But equally, if you follow that metaphor, Sal, do you fatigue? Is there a point when you're like, no, actually I need to stop now because I'm mentally fatigued, I'm tired, I'm not getting anywhere? Absolutely. And we're back to priming, we're back to the place that you're in, like an environment, making sure you're rested, you're hydrated or caffeinated, right? So that you're feeling good. I think that's appropriate prerequisites, but you've got to make a judgment about, okay, am I just fatigued and I need to look at it again later when I'm in a better state? Or kind of going, no, the fact that I'm stuck is why I've got the problem. And actually I need to keep pushing and pressing and asking different questions and getting different inputs. Because the beautiful thing about it, David, is when it happens, my experience is all of a sudden it's like something pops. Yeah. And I can't remember who said this. I do sometimes, somebody yesterday said, Joe, get thoughts in the middle of the night. I think it was Faye actually, he was saying middle of the night. And I had one last night relating to this content because your unconscious is working on it. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, I need to insert this piece. Okay, but you've got to create an environment where you'll have those kind of reflective thoughts. So, I don't have the exact answer, but I do think, Salve, the fact that you're aware that you go, am I thinking, or you said, do I think I'm thinking, or to be fair, you might just say, okay, is the quality of my thinking good? I think it can always improve, and I think it's a learnable skill. Yeah. But there's some premises or principles, Paul, that we've spoken about, of structures and things that will support that. But ultimately, it's going to be repetitions. It's going to be repetitions and practice.
But yeah, I think when you've shown those quotes you said earlier, have definitely made me more aware that even though I'm thinking, it's like little bits of scattered thinking. I get fatigue from that because it's little micro stuff. But when I do a big piece, I realise I give up quite quickly. But I think it's because, I've just assumed that's, like you say, my creativity run out. But if I was at a gym, my personal trainer would go 2 more, go 3 more. I'm nowhere near, I'm just choosing to out of laziness. So I feel there's a lot more headroom. But the only reason I haven't pushed that headroom because I haven't really thought.
Well, I think there's 2 types, almost of thinking. This is overly simplistic, but there is tremendous value from having the reflexive time, Suzanne, to think by yourself. In fact, I will give you another quote. Why not? Why not? This is from George Orwell, the writer. If people cannot write well, they cannot think well. And if they cannot think well, others will do their thinking for them. And I love that. And there's a load, because if you remember Kydland's law, if you can write the problem down clearly, then the matter is half solved. And another quote from Paul Graham.
Sorry. I just ruined your filming.
No, it's good.
If people can't write well, they can't think well. And
if they cannot think well, others will do their thinking for them.
Thank you.
That makes sense.
And So I don't think writing is thinking on paper. So when I'm thinking by myself, because I'm talking about two different almost categories of thinking, I will sit down, pad of paper and pen, I'll ask questions, I'll sit and force myself to come up with answers, multiple answers. And so for me, I've got to eliminate distractions. So for me, it's first thing in the morning, no devices, because I'll get distracted. Because I find the highest quality of output, I feel like there's almost a warming up that needs to be done. And actually, your first thoughts, you've had them a million times. The true breakthrough ideas, the moments, Suzanne, come because you've persevered and you've got to almost exhaust the tired old thoughts that you've had 100 times and think about it differently. How do you think about it differently? You ask more questions and then come up with more ideas. You have enough ideas, you'll have enough good ones. All right? So there's that kind of capacity for thinking and really challenging yourself with good questions. But then there's another type. And the other type, to come back to your metaphor of if I have a personal trainer, I'd do a few more reps that I wouldn't do by myself. It's like, yeah, I'll often take those ideas I've had into a dynamic with a mastermind group, with a coach, with a mentor, with somebody a peer who I respect, who knows my flaws and knows my blind spots and will challenge me on my assumptions. And I kind of go, yep, and then that will elevate the quality of the thought process. And you go, well, which do you prefer, Dan? And I'm like, I see value in both. It's different. So to stick with the metaphor, it's like saying, what's better for you, your health and well-being and your fitness? Is it cardiovascular exercise or is it weight training? It's like, well, they've both got their place. And I'm like, yeah, great. So I'm in favor of doing both.
Nice.
Right?
Yeah.
And by the way, and then I'm back to, but it's hard. I want to avoid it all the time. So on my own, first thing in the mornings for me, no children around, no devices around, all right? And the second is, I create environments like this because it forces me to think. Being sat down, discussing, I love it.
So do you find that your best thinking time is first thing?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's before my brain gets fatigued, tired, filled up with other to-dos and things.
I agree with that. So for me personally, I think I was different 20 years ago, pre-children, Suzanne. But for me, I find that my best clarity of thought is first thing in the morning. But probably post-coffee. Right? I mean, the truth is, it's probably less the morning, albeit I'm saying that's true because there's no mental fatigue. I think mental fatigue is real. But I actually think it's absence of distraction is what makes it better. So when I'm away somewhere like here, like I'm staying here tonight, it could be any time of the day. It's just that if I'm in my day-to-day life, children get up, they've got things going on, there's interactions that are important, then you've got day-to-day business interactions, and I almost think of it as like mental load. And then there's some crisis that happens. Okay. In the lunch break, you check your phone, you've got 76 messages, fires to put out, and I think of it as almost like it's using up that mental RAM. So is it morning? Yes, for me, but that's probably just a way of eliminating distractions so that I'm focused. Not distracted by the camera, right? So, yeah, does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. I've lost completely my original track of thought. Yes. So before we come back to the exercise that I was having you do and think about, I'm going to just share a few stories, do something off the cuff. So I've tentatively titled this little section, Anastasia, as "That's Not Your Fucking Problem." Okay? So, look, a framework that I would have is if somebody comes in and they're like, right, this is my problem, rarely what they think the problem is actually the root cause. So the analogy would be like, once upon a time I had tennis elbow. And I went to see the physiotherapist, and I was like, I've got this problem, can you treat my elbow? And he started pressing between my shoulder blades. I'm like, what are you doing? That's not the problem's here. And he went, no, Dan. He went, that's the symptom. You've got a pain here. He goes, but that's not where it's coming from. It's coming from here. And he just touched me lightly in between my shoulder blades, and he had to claw me off the ceiling. It was so agonizingly painful. And I'll be doing him a service because I'm sure I might not be remembering it correctly, but he said, look, it's referred pain. The problem, the impingement is here between your shoulder blades. It's just that it's manifesting itself in pain at your elbow. And right there, that's what this is about. It's like, how do we find your leverage point? Your referred pain is you haven't got the revenue that you want. You haven't got the profit that you want. You haven't got the cash flow that you want. What's the root cause? What's the impingement point? Where if you get rid of that choke point, it frees up everything. You can move freely. You can get the results that you want. Okay, so how do we think about this, Anastasia? I go, okay, sometimes a lens on which can be useful is saying, well, there's different parts of business. Okay, there are, I believe, 6 critical different parts of business. And I go, okay, there's 6 different areas. Those areas are, there's marketing, there's sales, there's operations, there's people, there's finance, and there's legal. So, every business has these 6 different categories. So for definition of terms, I would say marketing is about generating interest, inquiries, leads in your product or service. Sales is getting people to make a purchasing decision. Operations are the systems and processes that make your business run. How do you deliver the goods, the products, or the service? People are the individuals and what they do, the hiring of them, the managing of them, the leading of them. Finance is obviously the bookkeeping elements, the tax elements, the forecasting. And legal is the legal infrastructure to make sure you're compliant with all the appropriate laws and managing risks appropriately. HR law, contracts, IP. Okay, they're the buckets. So a useful lens, Paul, can be going, okay, your business has all these required functions, like the different systems of the body. Right? You've got your brain, you've got your heart, you've got your lungs, you've got these different systems and they have to interact. Your business has all these functions. The limiting factor, somebody will often come in going, oh, I've got a sales problem, but rarely is that the root cause. It normally shows up somewhere else. So I'm saying this, so as you're thinking right now, people often come in with one presenting, I think it's in this area, when actually, Sal, it's in another area. Let me give you a few examples. So, several years ago, I had a gentleman, a private client I worked with by the name of Dale. Dale had a software business, still has got a software business. And when we started working together, he had just shy of 7-figure revenues. And he said, Dan, I want you to help you double my sales. I said, if that's what you want, I am not willing to work with you. He went, why not? I said, well, why do you want to double your sales? He said, well, because I want to get more customers so I can double my sales. I said, but why? And he said, well, I want more profit. I said, what was your profit last year? And he said, I think it was £68,000. And I went, okay, so if I doubled your revenue from 1 million to 2 million, but your profit was still £68,000, would you be happy? He said, well, of course not. And I went, okay, so you don't want more sales. Sales is a means to an end. What do you want? He went, well, yeah, I want more profit. But I believe, I've got an assumption, Joe, that more sales equals more profit. And I went, okay, I'll buy in a software business that if you get more revenue, the potential is more profit. Depends on how much it costs to acquire a customer. I said, but if I could tell you that your revenue wouldn't go up, but you'd make more profit, would you be open to that idea? He went, sure. I went, okay. I had a theory there's a few things that he said and did that told me that he was financially not dialed in at all. So he was only making £68,000 profit, but I could see I was able to assess, because I've worked with a lot of business owners, that there was a lot of money being wasted, Sal. Sound familiar? A lot of money being wasted. And I said, look, there's money to be said here. I said, but the agreement is, do you trust me? Can you get on board? But you have to be compliant. You have to not get distracted. Anyway, I went, I need you to give me a year. He said, I'll give you 6 months. Or I think I said 6 months. And he said, I'll give you 3 months. I went, okay. I went, we're just going to dial down in this area called finance, called what are your management accounts look like? Suzanne, what's your cash flow forecast? What's your budget? Those financial controls. We dug in, and to jump to the end of the story, 12 months later, his revenue was identical, or virtually identical, give or take 1 or 2%. His profit had increased from £68,000 to over £450,000. Profit. And he presented going, I want to grow these sales. So Sal, he could have gone the long, hard way around it. He could have worked really hard to grow the sales, because there is more than one way to solve a problem. So I'm not pretending like there's one magical way. I do think there's normally one way that has significant upside, is easier to execute and gives disproportionate returns. I do believe the key is finding what the leverage point is. So he might have been able to grow sales and then grow profit. But equally, it was possible, Paul, that he could have grown sales and not grown profit, or he could have grown sales and profit. But why would you not do it the easier way?